If you like urban film thrillers and you like Las Vegas locations, you'll probably like my guest. He's Las Vegas local SkyDirects. He's the director of Run Nixon. It's releasing in AMC Theaters on November 22nd. And you can follow Run Nixon on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And SkyDirect, welcome to the show.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Ira. Thank you for having me.
Oh, pleasure. When I first saw the name of the film, I thought it was about Richard Nixon, but
I
clearly
know.
he's done running for office. So it's
No, he's not. Yeah, I know everyone assumes that. Yeah, no. No, this one's about a boy who's running.
okay, excellent. We're going to get into the plot, but before that, I'm curious about your background because you've had an interesting background in show business. Can you share it with our audience who may not be aware of SkyDirect?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was actually I started off as a teenager in the film business with Nick Cannon. He was filming Wild 'N Out season 2, and I was on his set with a big camera called a Canon XL2, and one of his bodyguards brought me on set just to film behind the scenes. And I wasn't supposed to be filming. I did, and that night I went home to go upload what I filmed. And I thought I got in trouble because I got a phone call from Nick Cannon's assistant Danielle the next morning, and she's like, "Hey, Nick wants to meet you." And I was like, "Oh gosh, what did I do now?" And I went up there, and he said, he wanted to figure me out and fill me out. And he said, "Hey, I want to bring you on as my personal videographer and film everything." And from
Nice.
that day on, I was Nick Cannon's personal videographer for a couple years.
Very impressive. So you used a Canon to shoot Nick Cannon, is what you're saying.
I used the Canon to shoot Nick Cannon. Yep.
Excellent. Did he see any of your work or he just called you up because he saw you on set and said, you know what? This guy looks like he knows what he's doing.
No, he seen what got uploaded on YouTube that night.
Oh, okay. Okay. I
He
wanted
was
to tell that.
impressed about the delivery, how fast I was filming that day. And then that night I edited and put it up.
Excellent. So where'd you go from there after you're working with Nick for a while? What was the next stage?
The next stage was B2K. There's this big boy band group who actually they just split up as a 4-member group and became a 3-member group, and they wanted to film the reality of them together and how they're going to move forward without the leading member. And I came on board to film their day-to-day lives, and I went home every day. The same thing with Nick Cannon. I went home every day to go edit and upload, and that created a big following on YouTube. This was before reality shows were really like popular. And on YouTube, there was no other reality show besides, what I was uploading. And Warner Brothers decided to pick it up. And that show turned into a show that ended up getting canceled because one of the members weren't, they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So they canceled the show, put it on pause. All that footage is just sitting in a vault. But that was what I did next.
Yeah, but it got you to the next stage. So B2K was 4, it went to 3. So you were shooting fractions.
Fractions.
3 out of 4. Okay.
3 out of 4.
Yeah, terrible joke, but I had to do it. So it's okay. Now you are directing this film. It's an urban thriller. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because a lot of the shots obviously are done in Las Vegas because you're a local Las Vegan. How did you decide on the locations? Well, let's start with the film itself. Tell us a little bit about the story, then we'll get into the locations and who are some of your collaborators? Because I know there's a lot of people involved in the production.
Oh yeah, I mean, the story is based upon my uncle who passed away at the age of 18. I never got a chance to meet him, but he had a heart failure, and he was a strong sports player. He played basketball, football, tennis. And he came home one night very tired, and my grandparents didn't think nothing of it. And that next morning, he never woke up, and they found out it was due to heart failure. And one night, I was sleeping at my father's house, and he gave me this vision. Brian, that passed away, my uncle, he gave me the vision, and I woke up and literally wrote about 80 pages of what he was telling me, and just started to write. And that's how the story began. And then I developed my own arc in the story, added some more flavor to it, and from there I went out to go reach out to certain cast members that I feel can play the role, and that's how we kind of started the process of Run Nixon.
How long did it take you to write it in total, the script?
Well, when I wrote the first 80 pages, it deleted. Unfortunately, it deleted, and I had to rewrite it all over again.
That is the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
pages and it deleted.
Listen, if you work on a Mac guest account and you put anything in notes, it erases every 24 hours, and I didn't know that. And I woke up the next morning and seen that everything erased, and I said, at this point, I wanted to give up. I said, forget it. And then I looked, I have two boys. I said, you know what? This is my legacy. I have to figure out how to go back and rewrite this and get the strength to remember everything and rewrite it. So it took me 2 weeks to just sit in the office and just literally write it all out, rewrite it.
Yeah, the key word is always back up your material, no matter what.
That's the key.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, now, how did you end up financing the film? Because it's not easy to, you can't just, yes, in today's world, yes, you could shoot theoretically a film on an iPhone, but this is much more
Right.
than that, obviously. So you had to get financing. Did you did it on your own, or were you able to get some people to back you?
No, I mean, after I wrote the script, I assumed it would be easy to go get financing. I reached out to our first executive producer, who was Kuda Love, and he told me, "Hey, if you film the trailer, a spec trailer, like the idea of what you want to shoot, I'll go raise the money off of that." And I had to sell my car to do that part. I leased it out. I took $5 grand, leased it out, and went to LA and shot this spec trailer and edited it up. And I did it so good where people assumed that the movie was shot. Um, so it backfired to the world because I actually put it out and the world was like, wow, when is it coming out? And it was the whole coming soon and it never came out. And then trying to raise money for a year just never happened for me. Towards the end of the 2019 year, I was like, okay, let me do a GoFundMe around December and see if that works. And me and the leading actor, Jordan Lee Brown, stood on Hollywood Boulevard at Sunset in front of Netflix, literally holding a sign, trying to raise awareness for this GoFundMe campaign. Assuming we might get some donations, assuming somebody might take a picture and it goes viral and then the whole GoFundMe can spread, but it never worked. And I think 2020, I gave up for a whole year straight. I moved back to Vegas. So I spent 2 years trying to raise the money, and I came to Vegas and I met this guy named Brian Cooper, who came on as a producer from New York, and he said, "Hey, what are you working on?" I told him what I've been working on, trying to work on, and he said, "Well, let's go act like we have the money. Let's go location scout. Let's just go figure it out, and let's not just sit on it." And his New York spirits, that's how they get down on the East Coast. Right. So I said, forget it, let's do it. So we literally went in Vegas and broke down every location we needed and just went to go location scout. And majority of locations, actually, they said, yeah, we'll give you, the house, the liquor store, everything that was needed. But the main location was a strip club. And this is how I got my first investment. The guy named Stephen Liu, who took ownership of this strip club called, back then it was called the Library Gentlemen's Club on Boulder Highway. This place was closed. It was a perfect location since it was closed. And I was just hounding the real estate people to give me the information so I can go location scout. I didn't think nothing of it, but when I finally got in contact and met Stephen Liu, he had asked what I was doing, and I told him, I'm just here I want to reach a location and shoot a movie. And we talked, and it was about a month of us talking. He finally, him and his wife sat down, Gloria, we sat down and they said, hey, we want to be your first investors and give you 30 grand for your movie. Our budget was about 150,000. At this time, I could have said, you know what, we need more money. It's not going to work. But I spent 2 years trying to get $1. So when I had the 30 grand, to me, that was 300 grand. And I said, I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. And I think 2 weeks later, we went into production. Kuda Love, he dumped in 15 grand. So we had, 10 grand. We had about 40 grand and we went to start filming.
Amazing story.
Yeah.
When you first started to put together the film, now you obviously have a fairly decent cast. What I mean by decent number of people involved, and you have as well as you have. Well, you co-wrote it, correct? You co-wrote it with Michelle Vital or Vital. Michelle Vital, and Brian is producing, and the cinematography was by Matthew. Is it Velasquez or Velasquez? Yeah. Okay, excellent. Music by Robert Johnson. So you've got a lot of people with you, and you have a decent sized cast. That's what I was trying to say earlier, but sometimes my brain freezes. When you were casting, did you find the people that you wanted, in the sense that you knew the parts you had to fill? You were able to find people to fill those parts. You didn't have to settle for less or wait for someone to be ready or to be available for you. You were able to get everybody when you needed them.
Yeah, the casting process was a movie in itself. I mean, since I started in 2018, and we didn't film until 2022, I believe, was it 2022, I believe. So I had enough time to kind of find the right people. Our first cast member was Fizz, who plays Dre, the father in Run Nixon. That was from the Kuda Love producer who manages him. So he brought him on early. Our next cast member was Cicely Cameron, who plays Stacy, the mother. She's an aspiring singer. So we had already a relationship, and she traveled from the Bay Area to audition. So I locked in her. The next cast member was Jordan Lee Brown, who plays Slice. I scouted him early in advance, and I went through a lot of different antagonists to play that role, and that guy's he brought the audition out so well, where he shot a movie in for his audition. I said he's it. And our last key player was Nixon, Emperor Caius. He was a hard one to find. He came last minute, literally, I think probably 2 weeks before we had to shoot.
That's
And
getting close, yeah.
yeah, and for our main player, actually, the movie to be based upon him, it was crazy to find him last minute. And I was very meticulous on who that character was, and it was great for his mother, Miss J, to come and bring him all the way from New York. That's where he's from, to bring him out to Vegas to do the movie.
How long is the film itself, Sky?
So it's about 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Okay, that's a decent amount of time. When you put it together, were you amazed when you look at the beginning of your journey and where you are now with it? So it's, as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be released November 22nd in AMC Theaters, including in Las Vegas. But how did you feel about the fact that you had started with this idea that unfortunately Mac got rid of, and you had to rewrite, and then you had to raise money, and then you had to cast it and find locations, etc. And now it's a completed film. Do you look at it as your baby? So it's like another kid that you've given
It's definitely, yeah, it's definitely a kid. I think I wanted to adopt a kid a couple of times. You know, and it was really treated like a kid. I mean, you know, you got to support it, you got to feed it, you got to nurture it, and you got to raise it, and you can't give up. And I think that's the challenges that any parent faces, as like, you know, I feel like I was a single father at times, just trying to raise this kid to be something what it is today. And I mean, the challenges, man, if you're not built strong, and you don't know what you're doing, why you're doing it, or don't have a purpose or a why, it's easy to give up and just call it quits. And I see why people, you know, that go through these challenges that don't make it out give up, because it's not easy. I mean, making a movie is super hard, and it's so easy to click next, or, you know, skip 5 seconds that took 5 hours or 5 days just to make. And, you know, it was definitely a challenge raising this child.
And also, too, you're not done with it in this sense. Now that you've filmed it, now you have to promote it. So the work is
Right.
never done.
Never done.
Never done.
Never done. Yeah, yeah. Now that it's what we're doing today, is talking about the movie and talking about the process and letting people know. Yeah.
And how did you decide on the name Nixon? I'm just curious about that, because as we talked in the beginning, my thought was, what? Richard Nixon's running again? He can't. He's not here anymore. But now, how did you decide on the name Nixon? Is it a family name, or where did it come from?
I don't know where it came from. I mean, I was just thinking of names, and I think I forgot his name originally. It wasn't Nixon at first. I can't remember his original name, but the name Nixon just kind of sticked. Somebody's gonna be mad at me, because someone said I don't know if it was Michelle, but someone said the word Nixon, or somebody's name was Nixon that I heard somewhere, and I was like, that's catchy. That's a good catchy name. And then the run came from Stacy when we were shooting the first spec trailer. She was yelling, "Run Nixon, run Nixon." And originally the movie was called Nick of Time. And it was like, you know, to save your son in the nick of time.
Right.
And when she kept saying run Nixon, I was like, at that time, I was like, I like that name. It sounds a little bit more catchy. And the whole Nick of Time was already a movie. And I wanted something, if you search Run Nixon, I wanted a movie that only our movie showed up, you know, as far as the title goes. So, you know, it would just make sense for us to just switch the name to Run Nixon.
Now, without giving away the entire film, because you want people to see it, obviously,
Yeah.
but give us a little bit about it. It's an urban thriller, and it's about, well, I'll let you describe it in the best way you want.
I mean, it's definitely it's an urban thriller, and it's about a boy who has a bad heart, and he gets rushed to the hospital, and his mother and father have to figure out how to pay for this heart transplant, and they don't have the money, unfortunately, and the insurance is not going to cover it. So the mom, who works at a strip club, she decides to rob this strip club to pay for her surgery. And after that, everything turns bad. The antagonizer, Slice, comes in, who she robs, and I don't want to give too much away, but he ends up, picking up the boy Nixon and holding him hostage for 24 hours. And now the dad has to figure out how to get his son back before it's too late.
All right, good. When you started scouting, going back to locations for a second in Las Vegas, there are so many interesting locations. From your point of view, what was the most significant from a cinematography point of view for the film itself?
I would have to say it was probably I don't want to, the strip club was the main location. And that's really actually in the beginning of the movie. But I want to say that was probably the art. That was the main location. That was the centerpiece of the film. And when we shot this, we didn't shoot it like this was a big perfect strip club that was like a famous well-known strip club. This was a hole in the wall strip club that was ran down, and it wasn't too popular, and that's how it was kind of shot. Outside of that, the house where one of the other members was at it's called Bird's house, and it's an old house over on D Street. That was a pretty significant house because that's the house where Nixon actually gets set up to go rob the house. So that was another house. That was another location that was pretty significant in the film.
Did you test the ending of the film and based on the response of the audience, change it, or did you stay true to your original script? Because so many films, they test for audience and see which way to end the film. How about in your case?
No, we actually, I filmed when we had a launch party for the film, which was on my birthday last year, May 6th. I had a group of about 20 to 30 people that watched the film. At the time, it was about 2 hours long. So I ended up taking out about 30 minutes of the film. And I didn't change the ending because the ending was already set. There wasn't too much to change. But I did actually take out 30 minutes of a lot of different arcs that was in the film that I feel like probably I could save for the sequel. So that was the biggest change that I did do.
I like your optimism. You're already thinking ahead for the sequel.
Yeah, we already have it written. It's when you watch Run Nixon and you watch the end of it, you're going to realize there's a sequel that's going to continue, and we're already ready for that sequel or going into pre-production, hopefully in March.
Will it be based also in Las Vegas?
It'll be partially in Vegas, and then it'll be traveling down towards San Diego, Chula Vista area.
Oh, interesting.
Vice is on the run, and he's trying to make it across the border, but I won't give too much away.
Yeah, don't give too much away. We want people to see it. So no, that's good. Do you find that your talent lies more in the writing or in the directing?
Wow, I think my talent lies in the editing.
Okay.
Yeah, I was an editor at first. I started as an editor in high school, and that's where I found the love of filmmaking was editing. I feel like with the directing is since I can't direct nothing that I don't write, unfortunately, because I have to be able to be married to this vision, and I have to be able to write it down. So if someone gives me ideas, I still have to write it down so I know in my head I can see what I need to direct. So I'm clear on set when I am directing. My directing skills are very amazing. They're different than other directors. I'm not anal, but I'm very visionary on what I have, and I get my directions clear to my talent, and I let them kind of, when I first shoot, I let them freely do their thing to see what they're doing, and then if they need my guidance, then I'll change it around and give them the end direction. But when it comes to the writing too, I'm a great storyteller. So but I think my talent definitely lies in the editing, because that's the hardest part to do is to make it look good. And anyone can write, anyone can film something, but can they really put it together to make it look good? And I think that's where my talent really lies there.
It is a skill that people don't recognize as much as they should when it comes to films. That editing can make or break a film. And even if the ending of the film is the same, as you said, you took out 30 minutes initially just to make it work better. But even within an edited film, it's subtle. People don't realize that it's been edited if you do it right. They just enjoy the storytelling. And I guess really editing, if you think about it, is storytelling as well as writing.
It's all a part of it. And I was blessed to be able to carry all three notes, from the writing, directing, and editing. But that's how it is on set with me. I'm directing the craft services. I need that to look squared away. Chips have to be lined up like this: the Gatorade, the water, the napkins, the forks. People don't like me, but I'm that guy.
I'd be the one that would be eating at the craft services rather than directing it. So.
Right. It's like, hey, Sky, get off, stop directing craft services. You have to direct the talent. Like, no, this got to be right over here.
Exactly. The whole feel of the shoot has to be right, especially, at any location. Did you ever use a soundstage for any part of the film in Las Vegas?
Yeah. Well, Vegas, no. Because, well, did we? My father had an office. It wasn't a soundstage, so I used his for the doctor's office, but we actually used Silver Dream Studios in Anaheim for the hospital scene. And that was the only soundstage we used. But Vegas didn't offer too many at the time when we were shooting. So we actually had to go all the way to California to shoot in a soundstage.
Because I can see your future in Las Vegas. And the reason I'm saying that is there's so much development now and so much, much more. A lot of people in Hollywood are thinking of moving to Las Vegas, not just actors, but obviously sound stages, production facilities, recording facilities, etc. So I could see you actually setting up a whole empire right here in Las Vegas without having to go to either Hollywood or anywhere else.
That's always been a dream of mine. I've been bouncing back and forth between Vegas and LA, and I always, just like Mark Wahlberg can see it, the potential is definitely here with the how wide the city is and how much is developing. And with Las Vegas media film company coming out to we're kind of by Durango. I definitely want to be a part of that, and that's why it's amazing that we have a movie in Vegas, shot in Vegas, and coming out, and not only in other AMC's, but in Town Square AMC, and definitely it's important for Vegas to know there's an independent film that got a theatrical deal with AMC, and from Vegas, it's amazing to be a part of that and to see what happens with Vegas and be able to bring light to Vegas on the film side.
And I think in your position, not only do you direct and write and edit, but you also have to really know some of the business in order to be able to not just finance the film, but as you say, you have a deal with AMC. A lot of that stuff's not easy to come by.
Oh, no. Do you want me to elaborate on that part?
Please.
Listen, I think that's, people film a movie and, there's good opportunities out there like Tubi that you can just easily go through a third party and upload an aggregator like Film Hub and put it on Tubi and all the other different AVODs. But if you want something bigger and you want to go theatrical, I think that was a business in itself just to figure out how to do that. And luckily for me, we got turned down by Tubi for a Tubi original for Run Nixon, along with BET, who turned us down. At that time, I could have gave up again, but it was like, the goal for me was always to be theatrical. My films have to be in theaters. I believe that silver screen means something when an audience of people that never seen something come together and watch the movie. I think it feels better. And, I didn't see the vision until we got turned down. And that's when I reached out to this lady named Nicole Randolph, who's the SVP over at AMC. And I told her my story and pitched the film. Her and her team got back to us in 3 weeks and they agreed to, give us a theatrical distribution through AMC, which doesn't happen. They said this is very rare. They go, thousands of pitches and studios looking to put the films in movies. So to get a spot in the theater was a blessing in the sky,
Yeah, it's an amazing story all the way around from the beginning to where you are now. The most important question, I was going to say it for the end, but I'll use it now. Are you going to invite Nick Cannon to the opening?
Nick's a pretty busy guy, as you know. The guy has a lot of kids and his things.
Yeah, but wait a second. Wait a minute. You have the determination to follow through on that one.
I do. I definitely do. I'm going to give him the invitation. I definitely will give him the invitation.
Absolutely.
Mean, who knows? He will come out. It makes sense for him to come out, though.
Do you see the film Run Nixon again? It's going to be at AMC November 22nd, a lot of AMC theaters. And do you see that film, once it has the theatrical release, then taking on other platforms? So maybe it goes to streaming or it goes to, you mentioned Tubi earlier, any of those platforms later on, or Amazon Prime or Netflix or any of the other ones.
Yeah, once this done with this the window period for AMC, we're going to definitely reach out to different platforms, take our numbers and analytics from AMC and see if we can get a good deal with one of the platforms. I think Netflix. I'm sorry, BT is a company that might take it on again. I know they were saying pretty much their catalog was filled for 2023, but 2024 they have us at the top of the queue. So if it makes sense, we might go that route. If not, we might just go directly to Amazon Prime.
I think the big story here is that despite COVID and despite the challenges under normal circumstances of making a movie, that you were able to persevere through all those elements, including right. The financing, including the shooting of it, the location finding, all the dynamics, what happens when you're involved in filmmaking right. That happens, and you come out at the other end and you're still here, and doesn't look at it like there's any blood on you. So you survived. Yeah. Unless you have makeup on hiding those wounds. But yeah, I mean, that's I think the inspiring story here, besides the film itself, is that you were able to do that over a period of time when there were a lot of other things going on. Now, clearly, I mean, you weren't in the middle of COVID when you were doing it, but still there are so many things that came to a standstill, and then you had to everybody had to kind of start up again, and it never stopped you. You just kept going.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the pandemic was the slow time. That was a time where I kind of let it breathe and eased off of it. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to pay attention. Hey, sometimes you do got to take your foot off the gas and just ease off and just let this, be on pilot and cruise control. And that was during the pandemic time. And I at that time I'm in tech, so I developed a platform, and I was tech heavy in 2019, 2020. But towards the end of the year, the butterflies got back in me, and I said I need to fly this shit back into the film world, especially with me being asked that question a lot, where people were asking me, "Hey, what's going on with the filming?"
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, and also too, I had to sell my car in the middle of the movie because we ran out of money. So I was back faced with that, where I had to release my car and use that money to finish making the movie. And, so the perseverance was definitely there. But, my determination has always been there. I'm always determined to make it and figure it out.
Yeah. And obviously you have a great future based on just what you've just done. So before I let you go, last question, what do you see as your future? Are you going to stay in Las Vegas, or do you think you'll move to Hollywood or some other location and make more films and write books? Or what do you see as your future?
Yeah, right now I'm pretty heavy in finishing up or making a name for myself in the film industry. So the goal is to get a name that the industry knows, and I can continue on producing great films. I have 10 scripts ready to go. Once the name is established in the industry, I'm in the tech business, so I have a casting app coming out called Castful, and that will allow people to be able to audition for movies that I'm doing and other people are doing. So I'll open the doors for that down the line, maybe 2024. And then as far as staying in Vegas, I mean, my house is in Vegas. I'll always be in Vegas. My whole entire life I've been Vegas, LA, back and forth. So if the business is not here, of course I'll be in LA, but I'll always be back and forth between LA and Vegas.
Well, that's a great way to leave it. My guest has been Las Vegas local SkyDirects. He's the director of Run Nixon, and it's releasing in AMC Theaters on November 22nd. You can follow Run Nixon on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and he's showing his hat. I like that. Sky, thanks for being on the show.
Appreciate it, Ira. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See you next time.